Thank you. You have never lived until you have almost died. For those of us who fought for it, freedom has a special flavor the free will never know. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and most distinguished guests, today I am taking you back in time. Back to a time which helped shape who America is today. In the early 20th century, Japan had overrun most of Asia, beginning by their invasion of China in 1928, killing millions and impressing millions more into slavery. Simultaneously, on the other side of the world, Nazi Germany had overrun most of Europe and was currently hammering away at Britain. The United States, having fought almost 17 years during World War I, and having gone through the biggest depression in American history, was in an isolationist and pacifist mood. Congress nor America wanted anything to do with the European or Asian War. That was until December 7th, 1941, a day that America will forever hold in infamy, the day Pearl Harbor was attacked. In outrage, Congress declared war on Japan, and the next day declared war on Germany. In an instant, the United States found itself in a two-front war which it was ill-prepared to fight. Few Americans remember the events of almost 70 years ago, but in the midst of today's conflict, it is imperative that we remember history so that we don't repeat the same mistakes. U.S. had few allies at the time. In fact, France had already aligned itself with its German occupiers, and Hitler had already dominated most of Europe, from Norway to Italy, except for Russia in the east. Bushido in Japan was already attacking China, and of course had already attacked us at Pearl Harbor. And evidence now shows us that both Bushido and Hitler had plans of invading the United States once they had declared victories in their own regions. Britain was on the verge of bankruptcy, saved only by $600 million in gold bullion in the England Bank, which actually belonged to Belgium, but was donated to continue the war effort. Britain had been valiantly holding out for 2 years in the face of staggering losses, and it was saved only because Hitler underestimated the Brits and thought that they were somebody that he can deal with later, and instead decided to focus on Russia. But it was Russia, the same Cold War Russia, that actually saved Americans by putting up a desperate and valiant fight for over 2 years. 2 years that gave the United States enough time to gear up their military and get ready to jump into the war. Had Russia surrendered at a time where America was still preparing and Hitler given time to focus on England, then the U.S. would have not had a staging area for its North African campaign and for eventually the invasion into Normandy. It is this exact history that we must remember, because we have a new enemy today. Now, we can take an isolationist point of view like we did back during World War II. After all, we haven't had another September 11th attack. But what do you think that the over 3,000 people that died at the World Trade Centers would have wanted? Now, I'm sure critics will say one life lost is one life too many, or two wrongs don't make a right. But I ask you, I implore of you to gain perspective on the matter and look at who we're fighting today. Now, it's true, we have lost over 3,500 men on the war on terror, but again, perspective. The morning of June 6, 1944, the first day of the Normandy invasion, we lost over 4,000 men. During World War II, during a period of 4 years, we lost an average loss of 2,000 men per week over 4 years. Now, having been in conflict myself, I can tell all of you that war is a very ugly thing. But in the same breath, I can also tell you, if I had the opportunity to do it again, I would, in order to maintain our quality of life and to keep our freedom. After all, are we not supposed to be for human rights, civil rights, democracy, multiculturalism, and diversity? If we say that we are in favor of all of these things, then we must maintain our fight and see things through. You know, Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "The true measure of man is not where we stand in times of comfort and convenience, but rather where we stand in times of trouble and controversy." So I ask all of you today, my fellow Americans, where do you stand? Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.